Mitt Romney. Joining me today, NBC News political analyst and former Congressman Harold Ford Jr. Alicia Menendez is a senior advisor at NDN. Jedediah Bila is a journalist from Newsmax, and retired U.S. Army captain, now author, Wes Moore. Thank you guys for coming along.
Absolutely.
So we've been talking about the inevitability of Mitt Romney, and it sounds increasingly like he is going to be the nominee if you listen to the White House especially. In this week alone, the Romney campaign has launched an obsession campaign, which is ostensibly to prove that the White House is obsessed with Mitt Romney being the nominee. Then there was a tit for tat earlier in the week between the two candidates. If we have that sound. On Tuesday, Romney said, "Sometimes I don't think President Obama understands America." Now, I say that because this week, or was it last week, he said Americans are lazy. I don't think that describes America. The Obama campaign said only Mitt Romney would criticize the president for encouraging CEOs to promote the United States abroad in order to create American jobs and attract investment at home. So the president said he's not paying attention to the GOP race, yet they basically seem to have crowned a winner. Should we all be following in line? Is Mitt Romney the heir apparent? Harold?
I think it's smart for the White House to begin to think about him as the strongest candidate, because he is. If it turns out that one of the other candidates emerges or someone else enters the race, which is probably unlikely now, then they may have to readjust. But the 6 or 7 candidates there now, Mitt Romney has the most experience. He has weathered the most storms. And if you look at the head-to-head matchups, he appears to be the most formidable against the president. So I think it's smart for the White House to think about it in these terms.
I think also, though, Mitt Romney has had some trouble. I mean, it seems as though every time a candidate pops up that generates some attention, Herman Cain, Michelle Bachmann, whoever it may be, everyone jumps on an anyone but Romney trail. And that's because the conservative base is really concerned about whether he's principled or not. He has been back and forth on a lot of issues over the years. And I think that his inability to pull away from the pack right away. Look, now we have Newt Gingrich rising up to meet him immediately.
As true as that may be, he's still there. I mean, so you've had 7 or 8 of them.
He's holding steady.
But I would also say the White House has a stake in Mitt Romney being Mitt Romney has a real stake in the White House thinking that he is a nominee, right? It pushes him forward to be inevitably the guy that's going to end up there come convention time.
And part of the benefit for the White House is that if you look at recent polling, Obama is beating Romney in a head-to-head matchup by about 5 points. He's at 49%. So if he can just get over that hump, this election could be a piece of cake for him. So in many ways, the White House wants to see Romney as their nominee.
And to piggyback on that, you see how it works on 2 levels. This works for Mitt Romney because he doesn't want to be out there fighting against Herman Cain and Rick Santorum and Newt Gingrich on these issues. He wants to say, let them battle amongst each other. I'm going to focus on the prize, which is the general election. For the president, this works well because he doesn't have a primary opponent. He needs some type of stalking horse to be able to energize the Democratic base and get them excited about this.
But Mitt Romney on the energy level, I'm not sure he's the. I mean, I think the White House would be very happy to run against Herman Cain or Rick Perry in terms of energy levels and getting the Democratic base out. But I do think, and if you talk to White House folks about this, because the GOP field has gotten so conservative, Mitt Romney has been pushed in a direction that, you know, he has been pushed rightwards in a way that I think even he didn't expect.
And I think that's exactly right. And I think the Mitt Romney of 8 months ago is much scarier to the White House than the Mitt Romney of right now, because you've seen so many deviations in terms of policy. I mean, just the other day you heard Mitt Romney talking about vouchers for veterans. This is an issue that the White House would love to run on. The idea that you want to have veterans who fight overseas and then come back home and then have to use vouchers to claim their health care. So this is the type of Mitt Romney that I think the president wants to actually have this debate with.
In addition, the most aggressive attack on choice in years, also some crazy anti-immigrant comments at a time when
illegals, I think. The repetitive reference to illegals.
Well, they are illegal, though. Can I just say that? They're breaking the law.
But if we're talking about semiotics and you're also looking to win the Hispanic population, you go out there and the term illegals, I think, is coded. It's in a way derogatory, maybe factual, but I think he's going to get off of that kind of rhetoric and then say to Hispanic Americans, I will represent you too.
Well, I think there's a way to do that as well, though, to be a proponent of legal immigration, to not condone lawlessness. I think right now, though, he is in a GOP primary setting. That is very different from a general election. I think he's much more concerned about the primary setting. thing than the general election. I think Mitt Romney knows he can appeal to independents. I think being from Massachusetts, he will appeal to the Northeast. I think he will pull a lot of Reagan Democrats, but right now the conservative base is not convinced. I don't see him sounding terribly conservative. I'm still not completely convinced that he will dig his heels in.
The question I have, and I think the question the White House is grappling with a bit, is if it's Mitt Romney, does the conservative base inevitably, to borrow Alex's term, when does it come to being comfortable with him?
Yeah.
Will they be more comfortable staying home?
Oh, no.
Well, I doubt they will want to go vote for Barack Obama. So their enthusiasm may not be there, but they may vote for him nonetheless.
I think the enthusiasm's not there right now because we still have some other options, and we're trying to figure out, well, is Gingrich a better choice? Is Romney a better choice? But he's absolutely a better choice, in my opinion, than Barack Obama. And if you look at his initiatives moving forward,
do you think the conservative base will agree with that?
I think they absolutely will come forward against Barack Obama no matter who the nominee is.
But Jedediah, I gotta ask. I mean, he has pivoted to a much more extreme stance, as Wes was pointing out. I mean, his plan for Medicare is basically the Paul Ryan plan, which is very, very divisive, and he is going to have to pivot off of that and win independent voters.
Well, I agree. That's what I'm saying about political consistency, and I know the White House is going to pull a whole bunch of clips from the past where he's been on both sides of many issues. I would encourage Romney to point to some of Barack Obama's political inconsistency. In the 2008 Democrat primaries, Barack Obama was opposing a health care mandate. Well, you know what, Mitt Romney, come out and point that out. And also, while you're at it, stop defending Romney Care in the name of federalism and get out there and say it was bad policy for the state, and that's why it would be bad policy for the country.
But I do think there's a difference between adjusting on policy once you enter the job and you realize the realism of the job and the realism of the responsibilities versus making obvious 90-degree pivots during a primary campaign. I think there is a difference, and I think voters will be able to distinguish the difference between those.
Well, I've stood firm against Romney's pivots, too, so let me be on record about that.
And Alicia points out that, I mean, it's not just Medicare, it's also immigration, it's his position on abortion. I mean, there are some serious, we use the word flip-flop loosely, but I think in the case of Mitt Romney, one only can. I do want to sort of turn the conversation a little bit towards this meme that people are still dissatisfied with Mitt Romney, and I think the media has certainly gone back and forth on him. There's a sense that the base is not really in his corner yet, but Mitt Romney has got the money, and if you look at the Bush, the big Bush campaign donators, that's not a word. Maybe in the Transformers movie. They're going to Romney 3-1, and I think, you know, it may be a sort of behind-the-scenes thing, but the signs are all pointing towards Mitt, and I think the more we kind of can come to terms with this, the more you're going to see ever more a back and forth between the White House and the Romney campaign.
Look, there's no need, whomever you're, a Democrat or Republican, there's no need to be the front runner, and it's very difficult to be the front runner for 6, 7, 8 months. He's emerging at the right time for himself. Now, I'm not for Mitt Romney. I will campaign vigorously against him, but looking at this objectively, his campaign, if I remember the campaign, a senior member, I would like where we are right now. I would like the fact that we would begin emerging late in this, the fact that he's had to weather the Perry storm, which made him, I think, a better candidate, the way Perry came after him, and obviously the way Perry has collapsed. Who knows if Perry will reemerge? And two, for the president, I hear all these issues, and I agree with immigration, I agree with the concern about Medicare, but at the end of the day, this race is going to be about two issues, jobs and debt, and whether or not the president's able to, I think, fashion a deal before Christmas that is meaningful, that is significant. If he's not, then he's got to be able to blame the Republicans sufficiently. And then two, the focus has to be even more so on jobs and finding ways, creative, innovative ways, legislatively, reaching out to the business community to find ways to get that unemployment number to come down.
If it doesn't,
I think we face, as Democrats, we face a real challenge off the board heading into next year's election.
It is about those issues, but it's also about who you want representing you in Washington. I think that's where Mitt Romney runs into a big problem, which is voters just don't like him. You look at his favorability ratings, they're not good for someone who hasn't been in office.
Well, but I will say there are new favorability polls out that show him really, I mean, he's number one by a percentage point.
By a percentage point, but then you also look at the percent of people who say they will absolutely, under no circumstance, vote for Mitt Romney. 47% of voters who've already made their mind about him, and that's going to be hard to overcome, even if he has good positions on
Well, Mitt Romney, there are at least some people out there that like you. We have to take a break, but when we come back, Rick Perry wants Congress to work